Right, section B is the non-fiction writing. It used to be called transactional because obviously whatever they give you to write, there is some form of transaction to it. You're either trying to get people to be interested in something, or to respond, or to change, or to be interested in a topic. The biggest mistake students make is they write very informally, particularly if you're giving a speech and you presume if you're talking to your classmates you can put in slang and informal language. Whatever scenario they give you, it needs to be formal because it is a presentation. If it's a speech, if it's an article, it's a publication. If it's a letter, you are particularly addressing a person in a formal setting. On that note, another way to think about it is if it's a letter, you need to make sure you put in the address, salutation at the start, dear sir, madam, and you sign off correctly. If it's dear sir, madam, yours faithfully. If it's a name, you put yours sincerely. If it's a letter, it's aimed at one person. You're aimed at one person and what they can do to change something. If it's an article, you are directing it at a very wide audience of people that possibly aren't interested in the subject, so you need to get them interested. And if it's a speech, it's aimed at a room full of people that are there, you presume voluntarily, but also again might not be overly interested in your point of view, so you need to convince them, so it needs to be persuasive. But the paper from 2020 was an article, and the keywords in the question: expensive, dangerous and damaging. So you need to be focusing on agreeing with them or disagreeing with them. It doesn't matter which one you do, because there is nothing on the mark scheme about agreement. The mark scheme is purely focused on spelling, grammar, techniques. So you've seen the word article, you immediately know you need a heading, you need a subheading. I'd put the heading in capitals and underline it to make it clear it's the heading. If it's an article, you've got a semi-casual audience, so it might be they turn the page and suddenly see it. Is the headline going to make them read it? Is the opening going to make them carry on reading it? And the techniques you use slightly different to paper one. Again, you can still use a cyclical technique. Whatever you start with, you try and finish on to give it some sense of structure and order. Anecdotes to prove your point. Facts and figures are a tricky one because if you make them up, it's fairly obvious and they don't really affect your argument. But if there's a very broad and factual figure that is well known, that could be worth using. And technical language, keep it formal, but also try and use the correct terms. So if you're talking about the environment, it's climate change. It's not global warming. And then the last one, on the structure, this is a very good way to make you structure it. So you start with the global issues. So why is this a thing? Why is it important? You then zoom in the middle to the people that are reading it, to the people in front of you, to the people reading the letter, so how it affects your local community, or whether that be the school or the country or your town. And then you end up with the individual. Why do you care so much? Why are you bothered about this topic? Otherwise, if you're not invested in it, and why would the reader? So, initial thoughts on the actual question 5 question, which is on the question paper. People who become obsessed with travelling ever further and faster. However, travel is expensive, dangerous, damaging and foolish. So write an article. So if you actually look at it, initial thoughts would be, it is implied it's environmental concerns. If you're travelling using airplanes, which is a damaging environment, if you're going somewhere that's quite fragile, you're going to be damaging it just by your very presence. And then there's the litter, and then there's all the other aspects. The impact, if people are traipsing through somewhere that's been sort of uninhabited for quite a long time, you're going to be doing damage, you're going to be changing things. If there's like Machu Picchu, the famous example in Peru, the locals have been living there for a long time, they've got their own particular culture, and tourists are affecting that negatively. do we even need to go places anymore with technology, with VR, AR, iPads, documentaries in HD? You know, do you need to travel up a mountain when you can experience it in different formats? And if we destroy it, there'll be nothing left for anyone, for future generations to experience. Now that's on the negative side. Right, the headline. It is worth spending a few minutes planning and trying to come up with a catchy headline. It doesn't need to be the most original. It doesn't need to be the most sort of puntastic headline you can think of. It just needs to have a little bit of a hook. It just vaguely interesting to make people read. So obviously I've done 3 if I'm supporting the statement, 3 if I'm against the statement, because that is your plan, because you're thinking, it's getting your brain going and you're thinking about the issues. Obviously the Titanic thing there with the iceberg, extreme travel or extreme selfishness, it's like the repetition of extreme, and you've got the contradictory statements. And selfish super rich scar the planet, I thought that was a nice bit of sibilance. And if I'm going to go for the other ones, you only live once. You know, why must this generation pay all the debts? I.e., like, why should we not travel just because the generations before us over and ruined it? And again, I've tried to copy that one. The repetition and the contrast. Right, Article 1. I decided that's my best headline. Bit of sibilance, and I've nicked the scar imagery from Lord of the Flies, which obviously I teach my kids, so a lot of students have that in their mind. And there's a plan, as a minimum, do this, just like 3 key takeaways. So for the global issues, we have finite resources, so if we keep using them to fly around the world, to go to extreme places, there will be none left. And climate change affects all of us. It's alright saying, well, it's alright where we live, so why can't I go to Mount Everest? It is changing everything, and you should be aware of that. The communal aspect of it is obviously climate change isn't just something that's happening in California with the wildfires, or the Middle East with extreme temperatures, or floods in China. It's all, as today has proven, extremely hot, shower, you know, and the weather is all over the place, the climate is all over the place. And then the individual point, like, try and make it quite personal. I want to live in a world where everyone has the same opportunities, not just the rich. Again, another typo. So why should the rich people get to do everything they want when it means that the rest of us are suffering and having to adjust our lifestyles all the time? Right. If I was going to go against it, though, which there is an argument, if you are a student aiming for the highest grade, you want to go against the statement that most students will do, because then it will stand out to the examiner, but also it's going to make you think. If you agree with the statement, by disagreeing with it in your written answer, it is going to make you far more critical about what you're writing. It's going to make you far more including on trying to persuade an audience, because in a way you're persuading yourself. So I thought new experiences, new futures had that nice element of chiasmus. So global. We've always wanted to travel. We've always had years for explanation. So why should we suddenly stop when there are lots of parts of the world that are now in a position to do it? Because they've obviously been trying to catch up with the West for so long. It just seems a bit selfish to suddenly say, no, you can't go up Mount Everest because we've already done it. The communal thing, why should this generation suddenly stop doing things because everyone else has been allowed, you know, everyone else has already done it? That seems, again, quite selfish. And then you make it about yourself. You know, why shouldn't you get a chance to explore new and exciting things? Because there is the element of, if we don't experience stuff, or like people don't experience stuff, we're able to share those experiences, and then the community loses out because there isn't that input. So if I was going to write an article against the statement, and for the statement, this is how I'd want to start it. Selfish super rich scar the planet. Again, and now it's on the page underlined, but it is quite a hook. The world we all share is crying out, climate change is affecting us all, and international travel is a major contributor. From Mount Everest, the pristine and majestic mountain towering over the landscape, now littered with rubbish and corpses, to the dramatic melting of Antarctica. So again, using some examples, anecdotal, showing off my vocab. The global increase in extreme travel is wounding the very planet they wish to see, as again using the word they, trying to make it out about the selfish people. There's a famous Native American saying goes, I think I've paraphrased that, I don't think it's the exact one, but again it adds a bit of colour to it. It shows that it's not just my opinion, that there are other opinions out there that agree with it. And then obviously I'd go on talk about the community, that it's not fair that our generation suddenly stops with the opportunities because other people have used them all up. And then on the individual thing, it'd be about how some people are driven to experience these things, so why can't they? And then if I was going to do the anti one, or the one that disagrees with the statement, tried to go a bit bigger on global issues. Like, people always travelled from our roots in Africa, we've ended up in all corners of the globe. You know, how the hell do people end up in the North Pole living? Seems a bit mad. Now with the possibility for everyone with the means, everyone has the ability to explore all the corners of the earth. But why should we now pay the debt to previous generations by not experiencing what they have or have done? I suppose I should have added. Travelling is in our DNA. We are urged by our very nature to explore the highest, coldest, most isolated part of the world. Our DNA, again, making it the collective, this affects us all, and the triplet, trying to point out about extreme travel. And then I'd go into done this really wrong. About how I'd want to change, I'd personally want to explore it. And going back, what I should have done for the selfish super rich is this bit. Right, so remember the purpose, like why you're writing it, is that transactional element. You're trying to make people change their opinion or take action. The audience, don't be angry, don't be aggressive, because you're trying to persuade them of your point of view. And if it is a speech, you have to introduce yourself and not welcome everyone for listening, and then not thank them at the end. If it's a letter, get the addresses and the dear and the yours bit right. And if it's an article, you get in that heading. Right, well, good luck with it. I know it's a bit noisy with the rain. Just make sure you leave the right time for that.